A few months ago, my sister Eva and I found out we were both pregnant, and I was happy for her since she had struggled with infertility for so long. But then, I lost my baby. I couldn't face my sister, my family. I didn't want them to see me weak. Especially since Eva was pregnant, I feared my sorrow would overshadow her joy. But things went too far, and yesterday I overheard a comment that I couldn't bear anymore. A few months ago, when my sister Eva and I both found out we were pregnant, I couldn't help but feel a sense of joy and hope. Eva had gone through so much pain with infertility for many years, and finally, she was able to experience this happiness. It was a special moment not only for her, but for the whole family, as everyone knew the challenges Eva had faced. I knew her struggles well, so I felt even happier for her, knowing she was carrying a child of her own. At the same time, I was pregnant too. Although not as far along as Eva, I could already feel the joy and anxiety that come with being a mother. I already had an older son, and I was looking forward to having another baby. Although we didn't say much about it, I knew Eva and I shared a special bond during this time. We exchanged the wonders of motherhood, the little joys that were so meaningful, and the excitement of carrying a new life. But then the pain came unexpectedly. No one could have prepared for it. Although I had tried to stay calm and enjoy each moment with my baby, one day I suddenly started experiencing sharp stomach pains. I couldn't understand why I felt so intense a pain, and what I had longed for most was suddenly taken away. I lost my baby on a day I never imagined I would face such a loss. Tears wouldn't stop flowing, and I felt like I was sinking into a dark pit, unable to find a way out. When I shared the heartbreaking news with my family, everyone was very sympathetic and supportive, especially my mother, who had always been there for me in tough times. However, after sharing my pain, I started to feel an odd distance between myself and my family. I couldn't look Eva in the eye, couldn't face the joy she was experiencing while I was suffering from the loss of my child. I didn't want to be the reason for any tension or sadness in the family, so I decided to keep my distance, especially since everyone was still celebrating Eva's pregnancy. Every time I heard someone mention Eva, a vague sadness would rise in my heart. She deserved this happiness, but I couldn't accept the fact that I couldn't share that joy with her. Even when invited to family dinners on Sundays, I found ways to avoid attending. No one forced me, but I felt as though I had lost a part of myself, a part I couldn't get back, no matter how much I wanted to. The love for my family was still there, but the emptiness in my heart couldn't be filled. Although I didn't cut off contact entirely, I simply texted them with a brief message, "I'm not feeling okay." That was all I could share. Yesterday, I decided to attend my dad's birthday dinner, even though I still felt heavy-hearted. The pain of my loss hadn't faded, but I realized I needed to be with my family. I wanted to be there for them, especially Eva, even though the grief still clung to me. I thought that maybe, just maybe, I could push past it for a while and reconnect with everyone. My husband and I, along with our son, had to pick up a gift for my dad, but things didn't go as smoothly as planned. My son was particularly difficult that day, throwing tantrums, and I had to spend a lot of time calming him down. As a result, we ended up arriving about an hour late. When we walked in, I saw my dad sitting with my brothers and my brothers-in-law, chatting cheerfully. It felt like I had stepped into a happy world I wasn't quite part of anymore. I headed straight to the kitchen, where my mom, Eva, and my sisters-in-law were preparing food. But just before entering, I overheard my name being mentioned. I stopped in my tracks. My mom said, "I guess my name isn't coming after all." Eva followed with, "What did you expect? She probably changed her mind and is just staying home again. Honestly, I feel bad for her, but you'd think she's the first woman to ever lose a child, and it's not even her first one." Then they continued talking as if nothing had happened. I stood there frozen, the weight of her words sinking into me. A sharp pain rose in my chest. The way she spoke, as if my loss was insignificant, it stung deeper than I ever imagined. Eva knew what I was going through. She knew how much it hurt. Yet, in that moment, I felt utterly alone and abandoned in my own family. I wanted to leave immediately, but I knew I couldn't make a scene. I didn't want to ruin the evening for everyone, especially since my dad was in the living room, happy to see us. I went back to where my husband and my dad were sitting, barely able to hold it together. I looked at my dad and simply told him we had to go. He and my brothers protested, but my husband could see how upset I was, so he agreed we should leave. We got our son and left without saying much more. When we got home, I just broke down. The tears wouldn't stop. My husband asked me what happened, and I told him everything. He was angry with Eva, but also pointed out that leaving abruptly wasn't the best choice, especially since my dad had been looking forward to seeing us. When I heard from my brother that Dad had been upset, and there had been a huge argument because of what Eva said, I couldn't help but feel guilty. But the hurt from Eva's words still lingered, and I didn't know if I could ever forget it. After we got home, I couldn't stop thinking about what had happened the night before. Eva's words kept echoing in my head like a wound that kept reopening in my soul. I understood she might be tired, maybe even stressed about her own pregnancy, but the way she spoke about me and the pain I was going through, I just couldn't accept it. I didn't think I deserved to hear such things from my own sister. The next day, I couldn't focus on anything. Every time my phone rang, I thought it might be a call from the family. But I didn't want to hear what they had to say anymore. I didn't know what to say to Eva or how to face the family. I tried calling my mom, but she didn't pick up. Part of me wanted to hear her explain, to clear the tension building up inside me. But another part of me was afraid that if even my mom didn't understand me, I wouldn't know what to do. I texted Eva, simply writing, "I need to talk to you." She replied almost immediately, sounding worried and apologetic, but I couldn't let the conversation end with just an apology. I needed an explanation from her, and I wanted to understand why she said what she did when I was already suffering so much. Finally, we agreed to meet at a cafe. As soon as I saw her, the tension was palpable. Eva couldn't meet my eyes, and I couldn't look at her without feeling the ache in my heart. We sat in silence for a while, only hearing the sound of the coffee machine and clinking cups around us. "I'm sorry," Eva spoke up after a long silence. "I don't know why I said that. I truly didn't mean to hurt you like that." I sat still, feeling a mix of anger and sorrow well up inside me. "Why did you say that? Don't you understand why those words hurt so much? I'm dealing with the pain of losing a child, and you said I'm not the first to lose one?" I couldn't hold back the tears. I just wanted to share joy with you, but instead, you made me feel like I didn't deserve any sympathy. Eva lowered her head, her hands trembling as she held her cup. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I've been so worried about everything going on in my life, about what's happening with me, and in that moment, I just said things without thinking." She paused, and I saw a tear slip down her cheek. The guilt and regret were evident on Eva's face, and part of me wanted to forgive her. But another part of me couldn't forget the words she had said, feeling like they had crushed the pain I was already carrying. Still, I knew this conversation couldn't end right there, and I would need more time to process all these conflicting emotions. We sat in silence for a while longer. I couldn't say anything more. Even though Eva had apologized, I wasn't ready to forgive so easily. After meeting with Eva, I felt like a part of me had been relieved. But as I had expected, my emotions couldn't change instantly. I understood that Eva didn't intend to hurt me, but what she had said still haunted me. Even though she apologized, I needed time to accept and process what had happened. I went back to my daily life, trying to focus on work and my children, but everything still lingered in my mind. Things didn't improve much when I received a message from my brother. He said that my dad was really upset about us leaving abruptly the night before. His words made me feel like I had done something wrong, even though I knew my decision was necessary at that moment. Although I tried to push away the guilt, I couldn't stop thinking about my dad. He was the one who always understood and had been a steady pillar in our family. I knew he had been looking forward to seeing us, but I couldn't do anything else when the pain inside me was still so overwhelming. It felt like I was in the middle of a storm, unable to find peace. The next day, my dad called me. I didn't know what to say, but I knew I couldn't keep avoiding him. He didn't mention what had happened at dinner, but his voice was calm and understanding, as if he knew I was going through something unspeakable. "Honey, I just want everything to go back to normal. "You don't have to say anything, but I still understand you," he said. In that moment, I felt like my heart was breaking into pieces, and I didn't know how to respond. I told my dad that I would try to come for dinner next weekend. Even though I wasn't ready to face the family, I knew I couldn't keep avoiding them. My relationship with Eva was still strained, but I also knew that I needed to push through this pain to keep the family bond intact. I didn't want my weakness to tear us apart. In the end, I decided I would meet with Eva again. Even though my heart still carried the weight of what she had said, I realized that if I didn't face her, I would never feel like I could move forward within this family. I had to find a way to resolve these differences, not just with Eva, but also with myself. I still didn't know if time would heal this pain, but I knew I had to keep going, no matter how difficult it might be. This journey, though full of challenges, was something I couldn't avoid. Finally, after a week of deep thinking and self-torment, I decided to attend the family dinner on Sunday. I couldn't keep avoiding everyone, especially my dad, who had been looking forward to seeing me and my son. Even though I felt scared and anxious about facing Eva, I knew I couldn't continue like this. However, the tension inside me didn't lessen. Every time I thought about meeting her, a wave of pain surged within me. That day, I hurriedly prepared everything. My husband and son were excited, but I still couldn't shake the anxiety. I told myself to be strong, but the more I tried to think positively, the more I felt worried. When we arrived at my dad's house, the atmosphere was just like any other, warm and cozy. Everyone was chatting happily, but I felt like an outsider. While my dad joyfully welcomed us, I still couldn't shake the feeling of being disconnected, as if I no longer belonged there. The first thing I noticed when I entered the kitchen was Eva. She was standing there, holding a plate of food, her eyes on the floor, unwilling to meet my gaze. Neither of us spoke right away. I could feel the tension between us, but neither of us dared to break the silence. I knew Eva was just as uncomfortable, but I couldn't move past the pain in my heart. The meal went on in silence, lacking the cheerful conversations we used to have. Every time someone mentioned Eva, I felt a sharp sting in my chest. I tried to join in the conversations, but my mind couldn't escape the thoughts of the words Eva had said. Each word, each story felt like a reminder of the hurt I was carrying. I ate, but it felt like I was swallowing my sadness, swallowing the thoughtless words Eva had thrown at me. As dinner neared its end, I couldn't bear it anymore. I knew I had to confront Eva. I couldn't stay silent any longer. I stood up and walked over to her in the kitchen where she was standing alone. Eva looked at me, her eyes red, as if she had been expecting this confrontation. I just stared at her for a moment before speaking. "Do you want to talk?" Eva stood silent for a while, then gently nodded. We both stepped outside, away from the eyes watching us. Neither of us spoke at first, just standing in the stillness of the evening. The tension between us was still there, but I knew this was the moment we needed to resolve everything. "You know that what you said hurt me deeply," I began, my voice thick with emotion. "I understand you didn't mean to hurt me, but you need to understand that it's a huge pain for me. I can't forgive you easily when you say things like that." Eva lowered her head, her hands clenched. "I'm really sorry, sister. I don't know why I said that. I just felt so pressured and lost control of my words. I can't fully understand your pain, but I deeply regret hurting you." We stood there, silent for a moment longer. Even though Eva had apologized, I still wasn't sure if I could forgive her right away. The pain in my heart was still there, but I also knew that time would be a factor in helping us heal. Both of us understood that this relationship couldn't be mended overnight, but I didn't want this tension to tear our family apart.